Welcome to the Resilience Unlimited Show, your go to podcast for empowerment and growth. I'm Coach Dr. Lauren, founder of Resilience Unlimited, inviting you to join our transformative journey each week. This space is specially crafted for high achieving women, specifically women of color, where we can feel seen, heard, and part of a thriving community. This podcast is your compass for emotional regulation, understanding your purpose, and living unapologetically authentic. Ready to invest in yourself? All right, we are live. We are back. Well, we're not really live, but I'm live right now. So if you are watching this on YouTube, then you get to see my wonderful guest today. If you are listening, you will be hearing her voice and you will be hearing the conversation that we will have. But I do want to say welcome to the show. If you are new, please make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts. But I am so excited because I've now introduced guests to my show, and I'm just so thrilled to have Elder Harriet Tubman Wright on the show so she can share her wealth of knowledge and what, really brings resilience in her life. So, Harriet, welcome to the show.
I'm pleased to be here. Thank you so much, and pleased to share with your audience.
Yes, yes. So, those of you who listen, you know that I like to always have a structured question to start off the episode. But because I have a guest, I always love my guests to introduce themselves first. So, Elder Harriet, can you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about what you've been doing over the past few decades.
It has been a few decades. Basically, born in Kansas City, Missouri, grew up in East Oakland, uh, finished college and graduate school. I was a school counselor for a while. I lived and worked in Africa during the 80s. I'm a single parent. And
Wow.
I started my business after working for the city of Oakland for many years in just about every department except the police department.
Wow.
Started my first business was event planning and production, but then I started the Right Resort as a body, mind, spirit wellness center to really work with women around self care,
Yes.
and then I shifted to the Right Resort, Your Soul Safari to Success, where I look at self care, soul's calling, and social change. But
Oh,
the
wow.
foundation is absolutely we got to take care of ourselves to serve anybody else.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. And I love that we're going to be delving a little bit into what that means in resilience, because I do find as Black women, and those of you who listen, I'm a mom. So, Harriet, I am a mom, and it's exhausting, and we always have to be present and available. And it's like, we have to take care. You can't pour from an empty cup, right? That's what they always say. So we have to make sure that we're filling our cup. So, okay. Well, let's kick off this question. So I am going to read this question because it's rather lengthy, but it encompasses all of the work that you've done in a way that it's a question that can frame the conversation. So here we go. So how can we integrate the principles of freedom, justice, as you talked about, peace, and revolutionary feminine leadership as exemplified in your lifelong journey to empower individuals and communities in overcoming limitations and cultivating a profound sense of liberation for a sense of a harmonious and impactful existence?
That is a hefty question. And what I want to say is that most people want to experience the freedom to share their talents, their skills, and their gifts, service to their families, their communities, their businesses, their organizations. And they want to feel that they are making a positive difference, a difference that heals, empowers, and transforms those people that they are serving and transforms the planet. So it has certainly been my purpose and passion, and it really represents something I've done uh, with other women, hundreds of women, quite honestly, So I really appreciate the opportunity to share with you and our listeners some of the experiences that I've had that help heal,
Yeah.
empower, and transform others, do ourselves and others. Because that's what we're about: healing, empowering, and transforming. And so I'll begin. During the 70s, I was the director of the Black Women's Unit, which the university at the university YWCA, which was right across the street from the
YMCA?
from UC Berkeley.
Oh, okay, okay.
We used to have weekly healing circles that involved the students as well as women from the community. And one of the students that came through that program and later started working for the city of Oakland, she is now recognized as a leader in Centers for Spiritual Living, and she's an owner of Platinum Butterfly Ministries. Well, I
Oh,
coached and guided her to step more fully into her passion and power. And now, as a spiritual leader, she is highly respected and sought after as a minister, a speaker, a facilitator on a national and global level. And so, what
wow.
means is that these healing circles way back in the 70s,
Yeah,
uh, supporting one another, listening, supporting, crying with one another, part
right.
with there was that trust that was built up,
Mm-hmm.
and these
Mm-hmm.
relationships that were built and continued. I mean, there are very few. I've been to a few funerals, celebrations of life for some of the women who were in that. But the point is, we were grounded in mutual support and
Right.
community and love and honest sharing with one another. And that was a part of the foundation that created the resilience
Okay.
that followed us to where we are today. In another situation, as I mentioned, I worked for the city of Oakland, and I started my second business, the Right Resort, the Body, Mind, Spirit Wellness Center. And in this capacity, I coached Black women in the public sector, and one of whom I worked along with her staff. And I worked with my book, and this book, Releasing Stress, Creating Serenity, a Body, Mind, Spirit, Self-Care Primer for Busy Women. And when we talk about self-care, it's really the notion that uh, I can't serve others until I take care of myself first,
Right.
from a wellspring of care and love. And I'll share a quick story because this occurred during the time I was working with the Black Women's Unit. We had a social worker, and at that time, she was working with grandparents who were having to take care of their
Grandkids.
grandchildren
Mm-hmm.
because their parents were on drugs or whatever. And so she would tell these grandmothers, look, you go in the bath. If the only place you can go to get a break is the bathroom, you go in the bathroom and you lock the door. You be in there 10 minutes or 20 minutes or however long you're in there. And that trains the grandchildren. Oh, leave her alone. Leave her alone. Because when
Yeah.
she comes out, she's going to be nice.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Again, the notion of self-care is really fundamental. But I worked with this woman in and with her staff based on this book. And eventually I guided her on a one-to-one basis after working with her and her staff. Then I worked with her on a one-to-one basis to help her develop her business, and a business that she had been pursuing. Yeah, she had that job, but there was
Yeah, another calling. Yeah.
another dream in her heart, and she had been pursuing and preparing for this for several years. So she managed to get funding to conduct a beta test during COVID. And
Mm,
now she serves hundreds of Black women. She's flourishing. And again, she has stepped fully into her purpose and
right.
vision. So it really is an opportunity to be clear. Who was I born to be? What
Right.
was I born to do? And so I can guide and coach women so that we step fully into our
Right. Our
passion,
purpose and yeah.
our purpose, fully into our power in service um, to others. And I'll share one more quick
So
story.
before you share, well, I do have a question here. So as I'm listening to these past two women you talked about that you've coached and helped and nurtured, what would you say is your signature? I don't know the word for it, but what is the one thing that you make sure like, yes, this is something that I always have to do when I work with women to help them find their higher calling? Like what does that look like in your coaching?
There's a process called visioning.
Okay.
Sometimes I will say, okay, so you have this idea. What does it look like? What does
Mm,
it feel like? What does
yes.
it sound like? And get very tap into all those
Intuition, right?
senses.
And yeah, the intuition.
It might feel, oh, it feels so empowering. It feels so uplifting. Well, it sounds like Stevie Wonder. I gotta, it feels like James Brown. And so people, they're getting into the energy
Yes.
of their passion. And so
Mhm.
that's one of the tools. It's called visioning. It's a process that was developed by Michael Beck of Agape.
I
Um,
like that.
and
Yeah. It does make a difference. It
love.
makes a difference when you because I went to a women's workshop with my mentor and coach.
Mhm,
She hosts these, and it was so empowering being in a room full of all women who just wanted to find their purpose, wanted to find their happiness. And we did an activity where we had to talk to the women that were close to us about visioning. And I realized I had a really hard time with like because she was really getting detailed, like what are you wearing, like what's the car you're driving or what's the weather, what's the feeling, and I'm like holy smokes, I don't know. It was really challenging, and I think that is something that most people probably do have that block,
mhm,
and they don't realize, oh well, this is how I feel and this is what I want to do, so how can I tap in, like I think you said that, how do you tap into that to really flourish and make it grow to then become into what is your purpose so you can feel like yes, this is why I'm here.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very visual and visceral.
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, so tell us about the third woman you were going to talk about.
Woman I work with is a physician, and she overcame a life threatening health challenge herself.
Oh wow.
And it really turned her life around, and she came through it. And more recently, she had a lot of love and support through it. I'm telling you it. And so she wanted guidance. She's writing a book about it right now, but she
Yeah.
also wanted guidance and support as she was entering the decade of her 70s. So I helped her get focused on her personal and professional priorities, get focused on writing about this health journey, and releasing excess in her
Mhm.
home. We accumulate, accumulate, accumulate. And so releasing this excess, putting order in her physical space, but also in her
Mental
mental,
space.
emotional space,
Yeah.
prioritizing, okay, this is how I want to spend my time now with my family, with my friends, and with fewer clients. I mean, she's more like a consulting doctor right now,
Okay.
saying, what's really important to me now is the quality of my time with my
Yes.
family and friends, and
Yes.
asked for, some guidance, some support, some assistance in how do I get that together?
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm listening to everything you're saying, and I resonate with a lot of it. And since you've been doing this for several decades, and you said you were a single mom. So I'm curious to know, for other single moms out there who might, Black women really, because I'm speaking from as a Black woman in our community, but what advice can you give them as a spiritual healer in terms of like, them not saying, well, I don't have enough time for this, or I have to work two jobs, and I got to put food on the table, and all the things that if you think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, they're at that bottom of survival. And we know as Black women, we're going to burn out. We can't just survive, we've got to thrive. So knowing you have that lived experience, and you've been in Africa, and I don't know how many kids you have, but I mean, how were you able to do that? And what advice can you give to other women who want that healing journey, but just don't really know where to begin as single moms?
Well, I can say my son was born in Nairobi, and we came back to the States in
Okay.
um, when he was about 3.5 months old. And I spent a year in culture shock because, I could be in parts of Africa where eggplant was the only thing in the marche. And then I would go to Safeway or Lucky, and there's a whole freaking row of bread, a whole row of cereal. And that really, really jarred me. And I also
Okay.
had to get a whole new wardrobe. So I had, we had a babysitter, and then Edward was in preschool, and his granddad was alive, and his granddad was, oh, my grandson this, my grandson that. And really, the two of them became best buddies. My son played basketball, and he was a high jumper, champion high jumper.
Okay.
And so his granddad was always there. So all the team members, they just say, "Hi, granddad. Hi,
Oh,
granddad."
that's cute. That's cute.
There. And so that was a primary support. Obviously, there were others in his I when he turned 13, he had been mentored. He was like 4 or 5, and I put him in this program at 6 a.m. in the morning where you
Oh,
so he's always had mentoring. And when he turned 13, I invited all the men, the dads, the granddads, the coaches, every man that had been in his life. I said, I want you to tell him what it means to be a man. And he
yeah.
always had these fun birthdays, but this was at a restaurant, and these men had not heard one another talk about what it means to be a man.
Oh,
And
wow. You facilitated like a man circle.
I left, but when what I realized is that they had never talked to each other or heard from each other what it means to be a man. And then Edward had to wear this little suit. And so at the end, he had a money tree, and it was like over $600 that he got, plus the wisdom of the
Yeah.
men. And he said, well, Mom, I don't mind having this kind of boy.
Of course not. 13,
But
$600. You like hit the
well,
jackpot.
because in indigenous cultures, that the girls go off for their initiation and the boys go off for their initiation. In this culture, I don't know, unless you're Jewish, I don't really know what you
Yeah,
do.
that's true. That's true.
Was what I created, because I can't tell you how to be a man. Only another
Right.
man can tell you that. And so it was a very significant transformational experience. And when we look now at all the men who were there then and who are no longer on the planet, uh,
Mm-hmm.
it becomes an even more meaningful. And some of those boys that my son went to preschool with, when my father transitioned, they were the active pallbearers who took
Okay.
casket up to where he was.
Right.
And so these are relationships that, have been ongoing. And so for any single mom, it yes, you're going to support one another, but you're also going to identify others within your family and your community who can co-develop, co-support, co-coach, co-mother, if you
Right.
will, because they bring a different perspective and
Yeah.
energy. And which is good for your little one, and it's good for you because we can't do it alone. We
Yeah.
absolutely, I mean, in indigenous cultures, whether it's Africa, whether it's the Caribbean, whether it's Asia, families
It's a family. Yeah. Yes.
families come together
Mm-hmm.
to support one another to move ahead in life. And this is, this one-upmanship, one thing is that's not who we are.
Right.
That's
Right. Right.
and so
Do,
that
do, do you feel do you feel like the one-upmanship, as you just said, is what is leading to most Black single women being burnt out?
I think that trying to be everything to
Yeah.
everybody, family, co-workers,
Yeah.
neighbors, etc., is what burns us out with and not making self-care a priority.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. So for me, it took me a very long time to realize I had to pour into myself first so everyone else in my house wasn't annoying me. And I didn't realize that until honestly until I became an entrepreneur, because my background is education and I've been in a variety of different schools. I've had crazy commutes, and it wasn't until I really looked at myself in the mirror as a solopreneur and doing my own thing and discovering my nervous system, my triggers, all of these things. And so now I have this morning routine that is like ironclad. And so it starts literally at 5:30. And I had to tell myself, like, I don't get out of bed. I do everything in bed. It took me a long time to accept, like, I don't need to physically get out of bed to do this. As long as I'm getting it done and I'm getting what I need to fuel my mind and start my day, I'm good. So my body is now used to waking up at 5:30. I put my earbuds in. I immediately do my meditation. I do
Yeah.
some breath work. I then listen to affirmations, and then I listen to motivational talks. And then after that, I have a little app called Headway where you can listen to, they're like Reader's Digest. So I can read a book in like 10 minutes. So I'm getting a little bit of, stimulation, and then I start journaling. And it's probably about 6:45 is when my daughter, she's 6, she might come in, and I'm in a good mood because I've spent the time for me versus back in the day. I'm barely getting out of bed at 6:30. She's running in. I'm irritated. Got to get her ready to school. Got to get on the commute. It was awful. And so I love that really this lifestyle that I've created has allowed me to really have that self-care time. And I see the massive difference in my life at now 37. I can't wait until I'm, you know, your age where I can really say, look at all that I've done and my morning routine and all of this and the impact. So I 100% agree with you about that.
My son is actually 37, and
Oh,
what you're describing are what I call spiritual practices. Because
yes.
when I get up, there's spiritual reading, there's affirmations, there's meditation. There's pulling a tarot card. I'm pulling the Black Goddess card
Yes.
right now. But this is how I ground and prepare myself to move forward in the day. It's quality self-care time, and you see the difference, and
I
your daughter
do.
sees the difference.
I
So
do.
this is very important foundational
Yeah.
self-care. And I encourage anyone who is watching to develop your spiritual practices, which include quiet time. It could be meditation, it could be yoga, it could be the reading, whatever it is that helps you be centered and
Yes.
grounded, and therefore your best self stepping out.
Exactly. And that's what I tell myself every morning. How can I be the best version of myself? Oh, I actually forgot to mention, and I practice gratitude every
Yeah.
single morning and every single night. And then I also check in with my feelings. So I have a whole thing, which I love because I'm actually teaching my daughter how to do that too, because I didn't have those tools when I was 6.
Mhm.
So I think that this is such a move. It's not really a movement because you've been doing this forever, but I just feel like I'm so grateful that you are here on this platform to really share this, and for other women who are listening, women of color, to know like we are important and we are enough and we have everything we need inside of us to be whatever we want to be, but we have to make that time for us to get quiet and for us to really, understand our purpose. We don't want to just live. We want to, thrive. So
thrive, flourish, excel.
exactly,
And
exactly.
as Bobby McFerrin used to say, don't worry, be
Be
happy.
happy. Exactly, exactly. Uh, so, Elder Harriet, we are coming to the end of our episode, but before we leave, I would love if you could share with our audience. It is in the show notes, your links and your freebies, but can you let us know where we can reach you, what services you offer, just in case, anybody really wants to work with you?
Thank you. Well, I've shared the stories to demonstrate that, you can reject limitation and accept liberation. So I
Yes.
currently offer some complimentary sessions, some individual soul guidance sessions, and I do VIP visioning sessions. I
Ooh.
also do a group session, and it's called Activating Women's Revolutionary Leadership Now. And it'll be in the form of a webinar that's coming up. I think, as you said, there are links to my download, and the download that I really like to promote currently, it's called 5 Essential Tools to Lead the Revolution Toward Love, Light, and Liberation, a spiritual guide for change makers. And so
Okay.
this is what I encourage listeners to download, and that way it's a journal that talks about self-care, soul care, sacred ritual,
Yes.
um, and coaching, etc. And it's a beautiful tool. It's like going through a journey, and you can apply it to yourself or your organization or your business. But it's a reflective tool, and I'm really happy to offer that, and then work with, or at least if anyone wants to go beyond that, again, we have complimentary services. I really appreciate this opportunity to share with you and to share with your audience, because again, it's about healing, empowering, and transforming.
Yes.
And it's definitely about liberation time.
Yes, I love it. Actually, yes, this episode is called Release Limitation to Achieve Liberation. So, those of you who are listening, if this is resonating with you, as I always say every episode, share this with someone who might need this, because you never know, this could change their lives. This could send them on a different path, a different trajectory. And if you're loving the topics and the guests that I'm having on the show, I would love your support to subscribe to the channel and wherever you get podcasts. So thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in this week. Elder Harriet, thank you so much for your expertise and your wisdom. And I'm just really excited to be in this space with you. So,
Thank
yes,
you. I've enjoyed it, and peace, power, passion.
I love it. Empowerment. So, ladies, stay resilient, as I always say, and I will see you all next week. Thank you for joining us this week on the Resilience Unlimited show. Be sure to hit subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe on our YouTube channel and follow us on social media. See you next week, divas. And don't forget, stay resilient.